The 2-minute message preview this week at the non-denominational New Hope Olympia is a blueprint for building a fulfilling and lasting marriage. There was a neighborhood outside of Chicago. It was a nice, well-kept neighborhood for a couple of years. But before too long, the roads began to crack and houses began to collapse. They called a team of inspectors in, and the inspectors discovered that the entire neighborhood had been built on a garbage dump. The whole neighborhood collapsed because it wasn't built on a solid foundation. The same thing can happen to your marriage if it isn't built on a solid foundation. Thankfully, the Bible describes the foundation of marriage in Genesis 2:18-25. One person was overheard saying he saw no need for marriage, or at least the publicly recognized covenant we call marriage. He argued, "I don't need a piece of paper to love someone? That's all it is, a piece of paper. All it does is complicate things." Those few words summarize the common contemporary view of marriage. In this view, marriage is about two individuals who love each other, so why do you need a piece of paper to prove it? And, if this is all that marriage is, who can argue with him? All the frills, responsibilities, and expectations are not necessary. So, here's the question: what is the difference between the marriage covenant and the cohabitation deal, and why does it matter? A professional marriage counselor, Linda Waite, points out that the prime difference between marriage and cohabitation in contemporary North American culture is time horizons and commitment. The public vow of permanence makes marriage unique among emotional and financial relationships. With marriage, partners publicly promise each other that neither one will be alone any longer. Cohabitation, by contrast, is seen by partners and society as a temporary arrangement. They want to leave the back door open should they decide to leave. For that reason, most cohabitors either break up or marry within 2 years. And, no wonder. The idea of permanence has been replaced with personal autonomy. For many cohabitors, the idea of a relatively easy exit with no well-defined responsibilities constitutes cohabitation's biggest attraction. They view marriage as a more significant commitment than living together, and they do not feel ready at this time to take on the more significant responsibilities that marriage represents to another person. Cohabitors, in other words, have a shorter time horizon than spouses do. Both biblical and empirical evidence shows that we can only form lasting relationships if both parties begin the relationship with the idea of permanence, and as a commitment made before God and others. Pastor Dell will ask in his weekend message, why should we value and protect the sacred marriage covenant between a man and a woman? Pastor Dell will also give us the blueprint for building a fulfilling marriage. He also mentions the 5 stages that every marriage goes through.